ESPN loves to show you the highlights, the home runs, the feel-good comeback stories. But what about the stories they won't touch? The scandals, the tragedies, the players whose names are whispered instead of celebrated. Today, we're diving into the darkest corners of baseball history. Drug trials, suspensions, shocking deaths, and scandals that almost broke the game itself. These aren't just forgotten footnotes. They're the parts of MLB's past that changed everything. So buckle in, because once you hear these, you'll never look at the game the same way again. Steve Howe's drug struggles. Steve Howe looked built for October. Rookie of the Year in 1980. Big spots with the Dodgers. Heavy sinker. Poise. Fans trusted him when the inning got loud. Then the off-field story took over the box score. Cocaine and alcohol turned a frontline reliever into a cautionary tale you wish you did not know by heart. The timeline hurts to read. Rehab in 1982. Fines, tardiness, missed meetings. A full season suspension in 1984 after a relapse. Think about losing 162 games of your career to one decision after another. Teams kept opening doors. The Twins tried, the Rangers tried, the Yankees tried. Each time he flashed the old arm. Each time the cycle circled back. 7 MLB suspensions. That number says more than any save total. In 1992, MLB threw the book at him. Lifetime ban for cocaine. He appealed and won. He returned, threw well in stretches, and fell through the same trapdoors again. Violations of aftercare. More missed time. The headlines felt copy-pasted. You ask why teams kept calling. Because when the ball left his hand the right way, hitters lost. Because baseball trusts talent longer than it trusts treatment plans. That is a tough truth. Late career comebacks followed. The body did not match the will by his late 30s. The end came off the field. A car crash at 48. The autopsy found methamphetamine. A life that started with parades and rings closed with sirens and a report no family wants to read. Questions to ask yourself. How many chances help? Where does support end and denial begin? Who steps in before a relapse? Not after. Joke for the room, because you need to breathe. If MLB handed out rings for most reinstated, Howe makes the Hall on the first ballot. You laugh, then you frown, because the punchline points at a system that needed stronger guardrails. Time to fix a bad rumor. One name keeps getting dragged into a story he does not own. Jerry Koosman, the correction. You hear a wild claim. Jerry Koosman linked to a murder-suicide. Sounds dramatic. Sounds like a streaming doc. Sounds wrong. The record shows no credible tie between Koosman and anything like that. Zero. He's a Mets icon from the 1969 Miracle team. Game 2 and Game 5 of the World Series. Big outs. Bigger moments. His numbers hang at Citi Field for a reason. So where did the mess start? Likely a name mix-up with an unrelated tragedy. One post turns into 20. One comment turns into a thread. Then your uncle repeats it at dinner. Facts lose to repetition. The only legal trouble on Koosman's sheet, a 2009 misdemeanor for tax evasion. 6 months in prison. A fine. Then he went back to being the guy Mets fans cheer. That is the record. Ask yourself how you filter stories this wild. First, who reported it? Second, where are the dates and documents? Third, does a second reliable outlet match the first? If those boxes stay empty, you don't repeat the claim. You hit pause. You save someone's name from a stain that never washes out. Let's talk baseball for a second, because that's why his name matters. Koosman paired with Tom Seaver to shock the sport in 1969. A staff that punched above its weight. A fan base that still tells these stories to grandkids at games. That is the legacy, not a horror plot invented by the internet. Want a joke with a light torch? The only thing Koosman murdered was a righty's confidence when the slider bit the corner. That is the line you keep. Why add this section at all? Because these videos push into dark corners. Accuracy matters even more when the topic burns. We name the right names. We clear the wrong ones. We give fans the truth so they're not part of the problem. Now to a story that changed policy, broke hearts, and sent shockwaves through every clubhouse. Tyler Skaggs overdose. July 2019. Road trip, hotel room. Tyler Skaggs does not make it to the first pitch. 27 years old. a starter with time to grow and tools to get there. The autopsy found alcohol, fentanyl, and oxycodone. He choked on his vomit. A family lost a son. Teammates lost a friend. A fan base lost a piece of summer. The trail led inside the organization. Eric Kay, the Angels' former communications director, supplied pills. A jury convicted him of distribution resulting in death and conspiracy to distribute. The sentence came in at 22 years. Testimony revealed a wider pattern. Pills move through hands and clubhouses and on trips. Matt Harvey admitted to sharing drugs and later served a suspension. Other names surfaced in reports. Some faced discipline. Some denied involvement. The picture showed more than one bad night. The Skaggs family filed a wrongful death suit for $210 million. Their claim: team negligence, poor oversight of opioids in and around staff, missed warning signs. You hear that number and you ask a tougher question. What would better policies have changed? What procedures stop a player from finding pills in a trusted drawer? What training gives a teammate the words to speak up before tragedy? MLB moved. More education on opioids. Stronger rules around prescription control. Easier paths to treatment. Clearer consequences for distribution. A hotline that reaches the right desk fast. Those steps matter, but culture matters more. Players travel, hurt, and chase timelines. They reach for relief. They need staff who says no, and then say, here is a safer plan. They need peers who ask the awkward question at the right moment. You want a moment of breath in the middle of a heavy topic. Ask this: why does every team budget for bat weights, laptops, and cryo tubs, but not for peer training on pills? Put money where the risks hide. That line is not a joke. That line is a challenge. We go from pills in a hotel room to bets in back rooms. Different decade, same shadow. Money talks. Choices spiral. Names get stained. Ready for the next file. Let's start with a Cy Young winner who chased more than hitters. Denny McLain's criminal life. Denny McLain won 31 games in 1968, last pitcher to hit 30 wins. That number still jumps off the page. He threw hard. He worked fast. He owned the ninth inning glare. Then the headlines shifted from box scores to bookies. You ask how a star with that much shine ends up in a courtroom. The path is shorter than you think. Gambling hooked him while he was still a Tiger. Reports linked him to bookmakers and Shylocks. The league stepped in during 1970 with a suspension. Front offices hate two things: injuries and mob chatter. He brought both fears into one locker. His performance slipped after 1968 and 1969. The arm lost bite. The noise grew louder. By the early 70s, his career was fading. The mound drama got replaced by legal drama. The years that followed read like a rap sheet. He faced federal charges tied to racketeering and extortion. He went to prison. He came out and tried business. That led to more charges later: mail fraud, embezzlement, another sentence, another release. Think about the contrast. One season, you're shaking hands with legends. The next one, you're counting days in a cell. Tough turn. Why bring jokes into a story this heavy? Because you need oxygen. Here's one with a sting. 30 wins in a year. Then 30 reasons your lawyer stays on speed dial. You smile for a second, then you wince, because the laugh comes with a lesson. Fame does not erase debt. Speed on the mound does not outrun the wrong crowd. What do you take away if you're a young player? Watch your circle. Track your money. Ask boring questions before you sign a fun deal. If someone talks fast about easy cash, walk slow toward the door. If your name lands in a gambling report, you do not shrug. You call a lawyer and a counselor before you call a friend. We leave crime sheets and walk onto the field. No courts, no wiretaps. A bright day in 1920. One pitch, one life gone. The story still shapes safety now. Ray Chapman's on-field death. August 1920. Cleveland shortstop Ray Chapman steps in at the Polo Grounds. Carl May's on the mound for New York. Late afternoon light. A darkened, scuffed ball. Pitch in tight. No helmet era. Chapman does not move. The ball strikes his head with a sound witnesses never forget. He drops. He tries to stand. He collapses again. He dies the next morning in a hospital. 29 years old. The only major league player to die from a pitch in a game. You ask how that happens. Start with the ball. Teams kept one in play until it looked like a lump of mud. Hitters struggled to see it. Pitchers used spit, shine, and tricks that made flight unpredictable. Umpires did not swap balls often. Night games did not exist. Shadows did. Add one submarine pitcher with a hard sinker and poor visibility. Risk climbed with every pitch. The fallout changed the sport. The league banned new spitballers in 1920 and tightened the list of legal deliveries. Umpires began replacing dirty balls more often. Owners paid for more baseballs per game. Safety took a step forward. Helmets did not arrive overnight. That took decades. First liners and hard caps appeared later. Full mandates came in stages through the 50s and 70s. Still, Chapman's death sat behind each push toward better gear and cleaner balls. Want a joke with respect? Broadcasters started saying, "New ball into the game," as if the ball had feelings. The ball did not. Hitters did. Families did. Fresh leather saved lives. The joke lands light. The point lands heavy. What should a fan remember? Tragedy shaped rules you now take for granted. Bright balls, strict doctoring bans, medical staff behind the dugout, screens behind the plate. If you coach youth, you teach hitters to track the ball and wear a guard. You do not cheap out on helmets. A rule written in 1920 still protects a 9-year-old today. That is the legacy. From a death that forced change to a case that forced a different debate, off-field violence, team choices, public trust, we move from safety equipment to policy, public response, and accountability. Roberto Osuna domestic violence. Roberto Osuna rose fast, electric fastball, calm ninth innings, a closer built for pressure. Then an arrest in 2018 on an alleged assault in Toronto rewrote his history. Police charged him. MLB opened an investigation under its domestic violence policy. The league suspended him for 75 games. No criminal conviction followed in Canada after a peace bond agreement, but the league's penalty stood. That split result lit a fire in every corner of the sport. You ask the obvious questions. How should a team respond when a closer with elite numbers faces an allegation like that? Do you keep him? Do you trade him? Do you cut him? The Blue Jays moved him to Houston while he served the suspension. The Astros took the talent and the storm. Fans booed. Commentators argued. Teammates faced questions every day. The policy debate went wider. MLB's domestic violence framework allows discipline without a conviction. That protects victims who fear court. It also raises process concerns for some fans. The league balances privacy, evidence, and deterrence. Messy outcomes. The Osuna case tested every line in that policy. Then came another flashpoint. In 2019, an Astros executive shouted at reporters about Osuna after a playoff win. It triggered outrage. The club first denied it, then apologized, then fired the executive. What culture are you building if triumph turns into taunting tied to a domestic case? Do wins erase lines that should not blur? Where does humor fit here? Minimal. One dry line. Save the chest beating for a weight room, not a locker room interview. Then back to the point. Teams owe fans standards. Players owe communities respect. Policies need clarity. Support services need funding. If a player returns after discipline, the club should pay that return with work, education, outreach. Real steps, not a photo op. As a viewer, you hold two truths. People are more than one moment. Victims deserve safety and voice. A league earns trust when actions match statements. You ask hard questions when a trade brings a storm with it. You do not let saves mute the conversation. We move from policy and clubhouse culture to a scandal that pulled back the curtain on an entire decade. Dozens of players, courtrooms, immunity deals, a league cleaning its own house in public. Buckle up. The next file is the 1980s in one courtroom. The Pittsburgh drug trials, 1985. Cocaine ran through Major League Baseball in the early 80s. Everyone heard the whispers. In 1985, the whispers walked into federal court in Pittsburgh. A grand jury looked into supply lines, clubhouse use, and the people who moved product to stars. The case centered on a caterer and dealer network tied to the Three River Stadium. When the trial began, household names took the stand under grants of immunity. Fans watched their heroes talk about cocaine in plain language. Under oath, Keith Hernandez admitted use and said nearly half his old clubhouse had tried it. Tim Raines said he kept a vial in his back pocket and slid headfirst to protect it. Dave Parker described the spread of use across teams. Lonnie Smith detailed addiction and recovery. Dale Barra, Vita Blue, Enos Cable, and others appeared. The story was not one bad apple. It was a spider web that reached from locker to locker and city to city. The dealer at the center, Curtis Strong, was convicted on multiple counts. That answered the supply question. Then the league had to answer the culture question. Commissioner Peter Ueberroth announced 1-year suspensions for 11 players, then commuted them to drug testing, community service, and donations. The message tried to blend punishment with treatment. It also admitted the obvious. This was not a two-man problem you fix with a press release. Careers took hits. Reputations took bigger ones. Some players rebounded with treatment and support. Others faded. Fans learned how easy access mixed with clubhouse silence can grow into a crisis. Teams learned that looking away is not a plan. MLB began building a real drug program with testing and education that moved beyond posters on a wall. Questions you should ask: how did so many people know and so few speak? Who was responsible for day-to-day oversight in those rooms? What would have changed if a trainer or veteran had drawn a hard line early? A light joke to breathe for a second. The 80s loved headfirst slides. Maybe not for that reason. You smile. Then you get back to the point. The lesson lasts. Systems beat secrets. Education beats slogans. Treatment beats fines. Tell the truth early, and you never need a courtroom to do it for you. Now to a different kind of dark story. One name, one set of allegations, and a hard line for responsible coverage. We'll talk about process, standards, and how to cover accusations without turning rumor into fact. John Roush, the reporting caution. John Roush stood out on the mound. 6'11", big fastball, long career across several clubs. You may have seen posts online about a violent assault linked to him. Here's the standard we follow. We do not amplify accusations without clear, verifiable, widely reported records. No court filings, no official police statements, no consistent reporting from reliable outlets. That is a stop sign. Why draw that line? Because reputations are real. Once a charge hits a feed, it never disappears, even if false. Dark stories demand more proof, not less. That protects the audience from echoing rumors. That protects the subject from being tried without facts. It also keeps the focus on cases we can document, so the series teaches and does not smear. So what helps? We can explain how MLB handles off-field violence when cases are documented. The league policy allows discipline without a conviction after its own investigation. Players can be placed on restricted lists while facts are gathered. Teams face choices about roster status and statements. The union ensures due process. Clubs are expected to support families and players. When discipline lands, it often includes treatment, education, and community work, not only missed games. Fans and creators should use the same filter. Ask simple questions before repeating a claim. Who reported it first? Is there a case number? A court record? Did 2 independent outlets confirm? If the answers are thin, hold back. If strong, cite them and keep focus on conduct and policy, not gossip. One dry joke. The only thing worth exaggerating about Roush is his height on a baseball card. Everything else gets measured twice, then move on. Responsible coverage keeps the series credible. It also keeps real victims and falsely accused people out of the same careless sentence. From reporting ethics to a loss that still stings, no court case, no rumor mill, a beloved pitcher, a farm, and a machine that did not forgive a small mistake. The story is tragic. The lesson is practical. Mark Fidrick's tragic accident. Mark Fidrick felt bigger than a rookie in 1976. The bird talked to the ball, groomed the mound, packed stadiums, won Rookie of the Year at 21 with a 19-9 record and a 2.34 ERA. He threw complete games like they were routine. Fans fell in love with the joy Then shoulder and arm problems cut his career short. He stayed a folk hero in Detroit and in small towns across New England long after the last start. In 2009, years after baseball, Fidrych died in a workplace accident on his farm in Massachusetts. He was working alone on a dump truck. Investigators said his clothing got caught in a spinning power takeoff shaft under the truck. He was found beneath the vehicle. He was 54. The facts are blunt. One mechanical hazard. One moment of bad luck. No second chance. Why include this in a series about dark baseball stories? Because the people who light up a summer are people the rest of the year. They work, they fix equipment, they raise families. Safety is not a headline until something goes wrong. Then everyone asks the same questions. Could better guards on the shaft have helped? Could a shutoff switch within arm's reach have helped? Could a second person nearby have helped? The answers will not bring him back, but they do help the next person who climbs under a truck. Fans remember the fun, the hair, the smiles, the way he made a long season feel like a fairground. Teammates remember a good man who made a clubhouse lighter. You can still make a small joke he would appreciate. He talked to baseballs. He deserved a truck that talked back and said, "Stop before you crawl under me." Then you sit with the quiet. Takeaways matter. If you run a shop or a farm, check guards on rotating shafts, train shutdown procedures, do not work alone on live systems, wear snug clothing, keep tools and kill switches where your hand lands first. Common sense sounds boring. It also saves lives. These stories are heavy. They also teach. Systems beat secrets. Proof beats rumor. Safety beats speed. Which one hit you the hardest? The trials that showed a whole era. The line we drew on reporting. The loss of a pitcher who made the game feel young. What story did we miss that belongs in the next chapter? Tell me in the comments. If you want more honest looks at the part of baseball you do not see on the highlight shows, subscribe now and bring a friend who loves the game.